What WWE pulled at Survivor Series with this masked man nonsense is either brilliant long-term storytelling or complete creative bankruptcy, depending on how they execute it. The entire War Games match came down to some hooded figure climbing into the cage during the closing moments and hitting what appeared to be a curb stomp on CM Punk, allowing Braun Breaker to get the pinfall victory for Paul Heyman's Vision faction alongside Brock Lesnar. Now we're all sitting here trying to piece together who this person is based on body language, move selection, and backstage rumors, while WWE sits back and watches us do their promotional work for them. The most obvious candidate is Seth Rollins, because that stomp is literally his signature move. You don't just accidentally use someone's finish unless you're trying to send a message or you actually are that person. Rollins has legitimate history with CM Punk going back years, including that SummerSlam moment where he cashed in Money in the Bank after pretending to be injured for months. The idea that Rollins would want to cost Punk this massive War Games victory makes perfect narrative sense from a revenge standpoint. But here's where the logic completely falls apart, and it makes me question whether WWE even thought this through properly. Seth Rollins was supposedly put on the shelf with a shoulder injury, not a minor bump, an actual shoulder injury that required surgery according to WWE's own storyline. So are we really expected to believe that a guy who just had shoulder surgery is healthy enough to climb a steel cage structure, drop into a ring full of bodies, execute a precision stomp maneuver, and then escape without further injuring himself? The physical demands alone don't add up unless this entire injury was a work from the beginning, which honestly wouldn't surprise me given Rollins' history of fake injuries leading to surprise returns. But then Wade Barrett goes out of his way during commentary to mention Seth Rollins by name and specifically hammer home the point that he recently underwent shoulder surgery. Why would WWE's commentary team, which receives direct instructions from creative, plant that seed in our minds if Rollins is actually the guy under the mask? It makes no sense from a storytelling perspective unless they're doing some kind of reverse psychology manipulation where they mention the obvious choice to make us think it's not him. The problem is that kind of meta-storytelling only works if your audience trusts you haven't screwed up basic logic, and WWE has burned that trust so many times over the years that we can't tell if this is intentional genius or accidental stupidity. The other massive issue with the Rollins theory is why he would help the Vision win this match. This is the same faction that Rollins himself has been feuding with. Braun Breaker and the rest of the Vision have been portrayed as antagonists to Rollins specifically, so why would he suddenly align with them, even temporarily, just to get revenge on CM Punk? Unless there's some grand reveal coming where Rollins was secretly working with Paul Heyman this entire time, which would require a complete rewrite of months of storytelling. And if that's the direction they're going, it better be explained thoroughly, because right now it feels like they're asking us to ignore basic cause and effect. Now let's talk about Chris Jericho, because that's where things get really interesting from a business perspective. Multiple wrestling journalists, including Dave Meltzer, reported this week that WWE has potentially made an offer to Jericho for some kind of retirement storyline. His contract situation with All Elite Wrestling has been murky for months, with nobody able to confirm definitively whether he's still under contract or if he's free to negotiate elsewhere. Jericho has always been vocal about wanting his WWE returns to feel fresh and different each time, never coming back the same way twice. Starting his return as a masked mystery man who gets revealed over time fits perfectly with that philosophy. The body type and movement patterns of the masked individual do seem consistent with Jericho's current physique. He's not the same size he was 20 years ago, but neither is he some massive heavyweight, and the person in that cage appeared to be somewhere in that medium build range. Jericho also has the wrestling psychology knowledge to understand why a slow burn mystery reveal generates more interest than just having him walk out during a random Monday Night Raw segment. You build anticipation, you get people talking on social media, you create weeks of speculation that keeps your storyline in the conversation even when you're not actively on television. From a creative standpoint, Jericho joining or at least temporarily aligning with the Vision would make sense because he's always played the opportunistic veteran character well. He could justify it by saying he wanted to make an impact immediately, or that he respects what Paul Heyman is building, or any number of explanations that would be consistent with his heel persona. The problem is we have zero confirmation that Jericho is actually available to work for WWE right now. All we have are rumors and reports from wrestling journalists who have been wrong before. Until there's an official announcement or someone legitimately connected to the situation confirms it, the Jericho theory is just wishful thinking mixed with pattern recognition. Then there's Austin Theory, who apparently is the latest name being floated by Fightful Select. Theory has been off television for several weeks due to injury, and his absence has been long enough that casual fans might have forgotten about him entirely. From a creative standpoint, Theory makes the most sense out of all three candidates when you actually think about it logically. He's young, he's positioned as a disruptor in WWE's current landscape, and his character work over the past year has been about inserting himself into situations situations where he doesn't belong to make a name for himself. The Vision's entire identity revolves around being young, hungry competitors who want to tear down the established order. Theory fits that description perfectly. He has no loyalty to CM Punk, no real connection to Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes, and every reason to want to align himself with a powerful faction that could elevate his position on the card. If WWE is serious about building Theory back up after his United States Championship reign fizzled out earlier this year, having him be the mystery man who helped the Vision win, War Games is a legitimate way to reintroduce him with momentum. The move he performed in the cage could easily be explained as Theory adapting someone else's finisher for the moment, which happens all the time in multi-person matches. Wrestlers borrow moves from each other constantly, especially in chaotic War Games environments where anything goes. Theory has shown he's athletic enough to scale a cage and execute high-impact moves. And unlike Rollins, he's not supposedly recovering from major surgery. His timeline makes sense, his motivations make sense, and his addition to the Vision faction would actually create interesting storyline possibilities going forward, rather than just being a one-off shock moment. Regardless of who the Masked Man turns out to be, the bigger issue is what this means for WWE's immediate future heading into WrestleMania season. The Vision winning War Games positions them as the dominant heel faction in the company, with Paul Heyman pulling the strings. Braun Breaker getting the pinfall over CM Punk, who is the current World Heavyweight Champion, creates an obvious challenger for the title. Heyman even cut a promo calling Breaker the uncrowned champion because he pinned the actual champion in this match, which is classic pro wrestling logic that fans accept as valid justification for a title shot. This sets up a collision course between Braun Breaker and CM Punk that could headline a major premium live event before WrestleMania. The problem is WWE has been criticized for rushing through feuds too quickly lately without giving them proper time to breathe and develop. If they're smart, they'll stretch this out over multiple months, have Breaker earn his title shot through additional victories, and build genuine animosity between him and Punk beyond just "I pinned you in a tag match." The talent is there on both sides to deliver something special if creative gives them the time and freedom to tell a complete story. Then there's the Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes situation, which emerged from the post-match interaction. The distrust between them after being forced to work together in War Games is obvious setup for another confrontation down the line. These are two of WWE's biggest stars who have unfinished business after their WrestleMania matches, and keeping that tension simmering in the background while other storylines play out is smart long-term booking. The question is whether WWE has the discipline to not blow their load too early by rushing into Roman versus Cody Part 3 before they've properly built to it. Brock Lesnar being part of the Vision's winning team is interesting because Lesnar typically works as a lone wolf character who doesn't need faction support. His involvement suggests that either Paul Heyman's influence over him is still strong despite their storyline split, or there's another layer to this relationship that hasn't been revealed yet. Lesnar teaming with younger talents like Braun Breaker could be WWE's way of transitioning him into a veteran mentor role as he gets older, which makes business sense even if it's not what fans are used to seeing from the Beast incarnate. The reality is WWE has created a situation with multiple possible directions and outcomes, which is what good storytelling should do. The problem is their track record over the past few years has been so inconsistent that nobody trusts them to stick with any direction long enough to pay it off properly. We've seen countless angles start strong only to be abandoned or completely rewritten because someone backstage changed their mind, or a part-timer became available, or any number of other factors that prioritize short-term decisions over long-term narrative coherence. If the Masked Man ends up being Seth Rollins and they can somehow explain away the injury concerns and the faction alignment issues in a way that makes sense, then fine. If it's Chris Jericho and this kicks off a genuinely compelling retirement tour that gives him meaningful matches against current stars, that could be excellent. If it's Austin Theory and WWE actually commits to rebuilding him as a serious player in the upper card picture through this faction association, that might be the best outcome for the company's future. But all of those scenarios require WWE to execute properly over multiple months without losing focus or contradicting themselves, and that's a big ask based on recent history. The Masked Man angle has potential, but potential means nothing without proper follow-through.